3, 2, 1, here we come. You guys get a 3-for-1 today. We've got Freedom by 40 back as the special guest. He was actually down in Nashville with us this week, you guys, at the big Bitcoin conference. So we want to get Freedom's take on that before we get into the technical analysis. But that's right, we're back for the weekly live Q&A. Anthony, I know we put out a podcast yesterday. Glad to hear you got a good night's sleep. How are you feeling today, buddy?
Yeah, a lot better. First good night's sleep I've had in about 6 days.
Yeah, a little bit of jet lag. We actually got a speaker invite for Amsterdam Bitcoin, so I'm going to be going the other way across the pond here. It sounds like in October, so I'll have to deal with the jet lag there. Freedom, I know you came down to Nashville. We'll get your comments on that in a second, but just wanted to give you a quick intro here. We'll jump first into the presentation deck, you guys. For those of you who don't know, Freedom by 40, huge name in the industry, does great technical analysis and charts, which are available on Twitter or X. Now you've launched out into Patreon as well, Freedom, and it seems there's quite a demand for your services. So I'll pass you over the mic, and you can give us a quick update on what you've been doing here.
Yeah. So obviously, on X, if you guys like what you see, come on over and follow the free content. If you really like the content, then there is a premium service on Patreon. It's actually $12 USD. So I know it says Canadian there, but just so you guys know, it just has a lot more content, a lot more videos, and a lot more, I guess, in-depth stuff that I can't necessarily go through on Twitter. So if you guys are interested, jump on over there. If not, totally fine. We do have about 350 people. And no cancellations so far. So I think the feedback is pretty positive, but obviously all the free stuff still post a lot on X. So either way, just happy to be here. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, most definitely. Hey, I subscribe to this, so you're dinging me for $17.50 a month now, Freedom. And I got to say, you're putting out a lot of content here, buddy. My inbox is almost full every morning. Huge charts, updates. You're doing videos on there, giving your buy, sell recommendations. So obviously, you guys, before we get into today's program, this is not financial advice. It's also not political advice. We stay impartial here. These are just our opinions. But if you want to go a little bit deeper and get some of that behind the scenes information in terms of Freedom by 40's trades, this is a great place to do it. And as a paying member, one of those 350, I can tell you it's definitely worth the $12 a month. Freedom, see how bad it feels when I come to the US? I go down to Nashville, I buy a $12 beer, and my credit card statement says $17.50, bud. How does that make sense, eh?
Yeah.
Anyways, a great Patreon account to take a look at. And Anthony, you've obviously got yours here as well. Now we have over 50 people in the live stream. So everybody smash the like button if you're making some money today. Hopefully you're making some money off Freedom's trades here. Really only need to hit 1 or 2 of those and it'll pay for the full year membership, Freedom. So that's a good bargain there, you guys. Moving along though, we wanted to get into some of our initial or kind of macro information before we get into the company specific tickers. So we generally do our first slide talking about Bitcoin price. Anthony, maybe you can comment a little bit about the price action we saw before, during, and after the conference. And then Freedom, you can take it away with the more technical side of the Bitcoin chart right now and where you think we may be going in the near future here.
Yeah, so I mean, we go back over the last 18, 20 months since Bitcoin hit its low back in December 22. We've seen this slow but steady climb in price. It's been more hitting the sort of like the highs of the last few months, and even just before the conference, we saw that steady climb to 69,000 actually during the conference. And then there's obviously a lot of anticipation about the former president, Donald Trump, coming on the stage. And we saw during that speech that the price did drop. So whether there was some expectation that more would be said. The Senator Lunas came out just after Trump spoke, and basically she had in her hand the document that was going to be put through the Senate with regards to having the Bitcoin as a reserve currency, and the price started to increase back up towards 69,000. But as we know, and we've talked about on so many podcasts, there is volatility in the Bitcoin price. Usually volatile, anything between 3 and 5% on a daily basis. And we also know the impact of mining stocks can be anything, 15 to 20% on a daily basis, and sometimes even higher than that. So, it's not really for the faint-hearted. But if you look at the trajectory sort of over the previous sort of 18 months, even from this year, it started this year at 42,000, and today we're sort of between 66, 67,000. So it's up over 50% on the year, and the mining stocks have started to sort of follow as well. There seems to be as much volatility in the last few days in the mining stocks, that more sort of like coupling with the Bitcoin price. But I'm sure Freedom will go through when he talks through his technical analysis and get more detail on that. But yeah, I just wanted to put that point across about when we refer to people. I'm from the UK, you're from Canada. I didn't even know what the correct title to refer to him is. I know some people picked up and say he's not the president, and we know he's not the president. I just assume that all previous presidents were called by that title. But it's let's make we're not here as politicians. We're here as people in the Bitcoin space, and predominantly the Bitcoin mining space. That's where we have our specialty. So it's good to put that point right there. We're not here as politicians. He was at the conference. He supported Bitcoin, and that's great for the 12,000 people that were at the conference. Support coming out there, and if everyone gets support around Bitcoin, all sides, then it's only one way for the Bitcoin price. It's going to go even higher. So jump on board, all the Democrats.
There you go. Yeah, and of course, Biden is the president, you guys. We have no affiliation. Neither one of us gets to vote, unfortunately, in the United States. But it is great to see any political party starting to build a platform around Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. We're going to get into some of their campaign promises in a couple slides here and our thoughts there. But again, we're just happy to see anyone discussing Bitcoin on these type of platforms or stages, because it brings that general awareness and adoption to the space that we're all ultimately looking for. Now, Freedom, you've got quite the fan club here, buddy. People are shouting you out. This guy's awesome. I told Freedom his hair's looking on point today. I don't think he has a single hair out of place. Looks fantastic for the film or for the stream. Now, Freedom, what do you think about Bitcoin price? You've got some arrows. They're pointing up. I would assume that's a good thing here. Yeah. What do you think we're in for here over the next few days?
Yeah, so posted this chart a little bit ago on X and on Patreon, but really you'll hear me talk about the stochastic RSI and the RSI at the bottom of the screen, those two oscillators. So I don't remember when I posted this, but basically, looks like we're going to get a bounce right now. You can see how in the past it's basically when you get both of these two oversold like this, it's likely you're going to get a bounce. So this is on the 4 hour. So we already got some of that bounce today, and miners have responded quite positively. But I don't know if we're going to get through this red block right here, which is really a B wave resistance. So an Elliott wave, you have ABC corrections, and this could be just a B wave, kind of like a dead cat bounce before we go lower. So either we're going to bust right through this red box, in my opinion, and that's why, if we get above that top of the red box, which is at 71.9, if we can get a daily close above there, I think we're off to the races, all the way up to mid 80s, even low 90s. But if we get rejected somewhere in this box, we are likely going to go revisit this next green box, which will be likely the last big loading zone before the big run, like I said, up to 85, 90K. So those are kind of what I'm watching right now. Those are the two scenarios, either straight through or back down and then up. So
up or down, one of the two directions we're going. And speaking of loading zones, Freedom, it sounded like you and your wife loaded up a full Bitcoin at the conference. Was that factual, or was that just for X community hype?
No, I don't do any X community only hype. I treat Bitcoin a little bit differently than all my other trades. So a lot of people were probably like, well, why would you buy at 67 if we're going to go to maybe 60? For Bitcoin, we don't trade it. I just accumulate Bitcoin over time, and that's kind of the one asset that I just leave. So I've been buying Bitcoin for quite a while, accumulating a good stash, and I don't trade it. So you'll see me. I basically trade anything that makes me money. I'll trade, miners or meme coins or anything, but I don't trade Bitcoin. I just buy it and I don't sell it. So got another Bitcoin added to the stack, and I think in the long run it's going to be a great entry. I think I got it at like 66.5 or something like that. So
nice. Yeah, I take the same approach with Bitcoin. I think Anthony does too. You just buy it and you never look back and sell it. I've got 2 little kids, and that's their future there. So I love that trade strategy. Now moving along, Freedom, next slide here, we've got our mid-morning market update. So at the time I took this, good old TeraWulf was top of the pack here with 12%. I think things may look a little different right now, but not drastically different. Anthony, I see you looking at the phone. How are we looking mid-morning real-time update on the miners?
Yeah, again, most of the miners, in fact, all the miners that we're following are green at the moment. And in terms of on here, TeraWulf is still the highest at the moment, 10.65% up. Stronghold is actually a little better at 12.3%, but they're not on this list at the moment. So they're leading the day in terms of mining stocks. But all the miners are green. And you've got towards the bottom, you've got Bitdeer and Riot are closer to 3% at the lowest end. So it's a green day. I mean, the Bitcoin price, the miners have been very volatile these last few days, and the Bitcoin price has changed by fractions of percentages, and the miners have been changing significantly more than that. We talked about that volatility, but it's just a case now of we're coming into August, and August is earnings month, so the first company to release will be Riot Platforms today, and then you'll see a whole host of miners start reporting during August for that second quarter of 2024. So the period from April through to the end of June. In that period, we saw the Bitcoin price drop from 71,000 at the end of March down to 62,000 at the end of June. So the impact of some of those mining companies who've got a hodl will be an unrealized loss. So the number of Bitcoins they had during that period on the balance sheet times sort of effectively $9,000. That'll be an unrealized loss applied to their accounts. But also the fact that we went through a halving in April, so around about the 19th or 20th of April, depending where you are living in the world through the various time zones, we had a halving. So the rewards that are now given for each block are 3.125, and therefore revenues drop by 50%, and the cost to mine don't change. Unless you've got mining companies that are bringing in significantly more efficient mining machines or are able to get a cheaper cost of power. But if you're not able to get either of those, then your costs have stayed the same, but your revenues for that cost has literally halved in price. And we've seen the volatility in the sort of like in the hash price, which is a reflection of Bitcoin price. And that was hitting $43 per petahash per day, which is as low as it's been since the start. So and I think even this week now it's dropping into that sort of into below $50 per petahash per day. So this is a challenge for many miners. It will still be a challenge for the public miners, but having spoke to a couple of them, it needs to go down a bit further before the public miners will start switching off, because they've got the most efficient machines, and also they've got access to the cheapest power on, if you look at from economies of scale. So they won't be paying sort of like any of the domestic costs that smaller miners have to pay. They'll have certainly some have got actual fixed price agreements in place, or they're able to monitor the market quickly and switch off when the price of electricity rises, and then when it drops, they can fully restart their machines in literally less than a minute. So it's a good position there. But you can see the graph there, current hash price, it's heading towards that sort of like, it's just above 40 at the moment, heading towards maybe 50, but not a great sign. And that's looking at a year's position there. So you can see the spike we had there just after the halving. We've talked about that in a previous podcast, but that was to do with the transaction fees and runes, and then we've seen it drop where people were expecting it to drop post the halving, which was half the amount that it was effectively providing before the halving. So yeah, it's a challenging time for miners. what we can also say is the difficulty, where there was an expectation that difficulty would start dropping, and JP Morgan put out their article at the beginning of the year to say when the halving occurred, the difficulty would stop. Well, we're at the highest point now in terms of difficulty than we've ever been. So difficulty is now over 90 trillion. And that's what that means for mining companies is it means less production, because there's more machines effectively on the network. So there's the Bitcoin rewards are shared across more machines that are providing hash rate to the network itself. And if you think about where we were at the halving, the network difficulty was 84 and we're at 90 now. So we've actually increased. It hasn't gone down. And some of these reports earlier in the year said it would drop 25%. It hasn't quite done that yet. The Bitcoin price is sort of probably is maybe slightly higher than maybe people were expecting back at the start of the year. So that would be an impact as to why some machines are still mining, but it will be challenging for a whole host of people on the network at the moment.
Yeah, I'm just taking a look at the all-time high hash price, Anthony. Maybe you can take a look at that while we're talking through the next slide. I want to say it was in the hundreds, like 300, 400, 500.
Yeah,
but maybe...
so the all-time high I saw was it was over like $400 per petahash per day, which is effectively 8 or 9 times what they're achieving today in terms of revenues.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's an expectation that if difficulty keeps going up and therefore miners are getting less and less, then it's apparent the system will start looking at how transaction fees will play an impact
Sure.
to try and get more revenues for miners. Because really now, the expectation we should have seen miners coming off the network. It's just not profitable for many people on the network at the moment, and whether they're playing a game where they're taking losses now, hopefully with the Bitcoin price rallying, and then they can recover some of those losses when they've mined Bitcoin. So yeah.
No, good information, and it's nice to set that macro stage. Now, we did just get back from Nashville. We put out a video yesterday about it, you guys, so I'm not going to harp on this. Really great to meet some of these iconic Bitcoin individuals and inspirations really in person. So a couple great photos. If you guys haven't checked out the video yesterday, make sure you take a look. Freedom, we even got a couple pictures with you down there. Now, interestingly enough, you guys, we wanted to pause here for a second, talk about what was basically said. So Trump has come out with a fairly strong crypto platform. Both Anthony and I agree that RFK's was quite a bit stronger and more, I guess, well-baked or well thought of. You can see RFK Jr.'s proposal listed at the bottom here, looking to build a 4 million Bitcoin strategic reserve compared to former President Trump's 1 million Bitcoin reserve. However, that being said, and I'll let you comment on this as well, Freedom, we are by no means saying this is going to happen. We understand a lot of things politicians say leading into elections are looking for votes. There's no guarantee that these promises are going to come into reality. Where we get excited, you guys, is now we have multiple front-running politicians in one of the most influential countries in the world that are making Bitcoin a part of their proposal or political platform for this upcoming election. So by no means do we feel like these are written in stone. They may or may not deliver on these promises, but just are now recognizing, acknowledging, acquiring Bitcoin of their own and learning about Bitcoin is really encouraging to the entire industry. Now, Danny had a question here saying, do you think the US government could impact the price of Bitcoin? They're moving around billions of dollars of Bitcoin at a time. I have no idea what the US government is going to do. I just think the fact that they're talking about it is a good thing for the industry. So, Freedom, what were your thoughts on the speeches in Nashville? Do you think this is going to come true? And ultimately, do you think it's beneficial for Bitcoin?
Yeah, so I think you really hit the nail on the head with, who knows what anyone's going to do once they get elected. But the fact that, you got Republicans, obviously RFK, pro Bitcoin or pro crypto and trying to make the industry, trying to basically, make sure the United States is one of the front runners in the crypto space. And then that basically forces the Democrats to also adopt a pro Bitcoin or a pro crypto stance. So the energy and all the hype and talk alone is going to help Bitcoin drastically, just because it's going to continue to be mentioned. I think, for the next, at least whatever that is, 3-4 months. Once whoever gets elected, obviously we hope that they go through with their promises. But at the end of the day, there's no way to really know, right? But in general, the more exposure and the more support for Bitcoin, especially on a political stage, is going to be very beneficial, in my opinion, for the price of Bitcoin going forward. So
makes sense. Yeah, Anthony, anything to add there?
No, I think what I'm saying right. I totally agree with Freedom's comments there, and all nations have got issues with their current politicians, and what they say one minute and what they do when they're elected can be miles apart. But it was positive to see there was 10 senators attending the conference, so there was some really good other people there. So Senator Hegarty was there, and he was very positive on Bitcoin. And one thing that stuck out for me with RFK Jr. is he announced that something like 89% of his wealth is in Bitcoin. So he's converted a lot of his wealth, and having a name like Kennedy, I'm only assuming he's got a few quid in the bank. So that was I when people say to me when they're looking into this, and I say take a small proportion, and that way you're in the game, and if Bitcoin gets to any of these positions that the experts out there are suggesting it will do, you'll do quite well. And if it doesn't, then you've not lost everything. And I'm more than happy to say I think my Bitcoin is something like about 4 or 5% in terms of my net worth. So if it went to zero, I've still got 96% to play with. So it's not the end of the day. But it was really reassuring for him to say where he was, and it surprised me. Yeah, 85% is a lot.
He's gone all in. If Bitcoin goes to zero, Kennedy's in trouble.
We'll be bailing him out.
There you go. Okay, guys, so we're over 100 viewers concurrently now. Hit the like button. We're going into an hour of nonstop technical Bitcoin miner analysis with Freedom by 40, one of the best in the business. We're going to be kicking it off with Bitfarms here. Now, what we're going to do this week, you guys, is I'm actually going to hand over the screen share to Freedom. He's going to walk through these charts in real time. You guys send in your questions or whichever company you want to see next. I'll type that over to Freedom, and then he can just seamlessly go through this for the next hour. So with that being said, Freedom, you can take over the screen. We'll start off with Bitfarms, and you take us away here, buddy.
All right, let's do it. So let me know if you can see that, guys.
Hopefully. Yeah, it's looking really good. We're still on screen as well, Freedom, and we've got the chart there interactive that we can see what you're doing. I'll full size it while you're talking, and then we can zoom out when we make a switch here.
Perfect. All right. So this is Bitfarms. I think we bottomed here, obviously, at 150 or so. Got a nice wave one up. And now we're just trying to find basically a bottom anywhere in here, right? So it looks like today we may have actually had a bottom, but we'll see. I would really say anywhere in here is the buy zone. People really overthink this stuff, in my opinion, as far as, trying to get a perfect price. I understand everyone wants as much as possible, but when you zoom out, I think the next move takes us to $7 to $8. So really, if you get in at $250 or $230 or, whatever, I mean, you're still looking at a great return.
Now, Freedom, I see the months listed on the bottom here as well. So basically, just because this is our first chart, and for people who weren't watching last time, these green boxes you expect, so somewhere in the first half of September, you think Bitfarms will get up into that $7, $8 green box range, eh?
Yeah, so that's a good thing to talk about. So with Elliott Wave, really, it's price based, so it's not time based. So you can try to predict the time, and this looks right, I've just been drawing Elliott waves for a long time. So this looks right, but it could take, an extra month. It could take even less, right? So this is really just a general range. The price I'm very confident in, but the dates, I usually preface that on Twitter and Patreon, right? That, it's really price based. So this is a good estimate of when this could hit this price, but it could be longer, it could be less. So, yeah, that's a great question, Bryce.
And another great question for you, Bud. Would we, so for traders watching this, obviously each one of these Elliott waves continues to go up and to the right. Would you recommend people try and make money on each wave? Do you recommend people get in whenever they find out about the company and ride it to the end of the wave cycle? Do you recommend people focus on a certain portion? I know last time you said wave 3 generally has the most rip to it. How should we think about doing this?
Yeah, so that's another good question. In general, I wouldn't be trading all these mini subwaves for most people. That's why I put my green boxes on here. I consider myself, pretty good, but no one can time, these prices exactly. So I just basically tell my followers and anyone watching, buy in these green buy zones, and then your next zone is going to be the next green box. Now, as far as when to take profits, most people really should just be pretty much, not financial advice, but, loading up on their positions now. And you shouldn't be even thinking about selling any of your miners until, the first major, I would say, level for Bitcoin that I'm very confident that we'll get to is the 90K, 95K region. So I wouldn't even think about selling any miners until that time. But as far as, I do update them more regularly, but I could easily be like most people and literally just say like, buy here, and then you're looking for, up here in this region. But I wouldn't over trade, especially with miners. I would just average in and average out. And I wouldn't even start. I would be averaging in over the past, hopefully people have been buying, for a while now. But I would essentially just wait for, that 95K region. And obviously I update all these pretty regularly. Nonstop for the patrons. And then I would say I put out miner charts, at least maybe once every 10 days on X as well. So, yeah, you can see, we got a nice tick up here on the RSI. So this is stochastic RSI, right? If you look, so here's a bottom, here's a bottom, here is likely a bottom. So you can see when these line up.
Gotcha.
This is oversold and this is oversold. There's a good chance that you're at least getting a bounce here. Same with this one. So I'll go through that on a lot of charts, but you can see the price.
Sure. So general summary for Bitfarms, then you'd say buy anywhere where up to
anywhere in here. Even now is completely fine. You know what I mean? Buying in here.
And you think next wave we're going into the 7-8 range.
Yep. Yeah. So once we get up here, we'll get a wave 4 correction. And then we'll finish off this big pink wave 3. So really we're in the wave 3 right now. Every wave divides into subwaves, so it gets kind of confusing for people, but
yeah, no problem. And a question, this is the USD listed Bitfarms, you guys. This is US dollars, this one.
Yeah. So basically, you're just looking for $8, right? And then just stay tuned. I don't project out as far as some people do because it's really impossible. Like I don't know where this green box is without having this bottom, and I don't know where the next green box. So there'll be another green box up here, but first we got to get to this green box, and then we also got to get to this green box. So it moves in waves. There's no point in over projecting. It's just I know it annoys people, but this is just the most accurate way to ensure we're going in the right direction and we have accurate step points along the way up versus just, you know what I mean?
Gotcha. Anthony, are you making sense of these lines and boxes over there, buddy?
It's interesting. And I don't know what the impacts on, when you have like other news stories come out. So, I mean, can you explain if that takes any account of what you're doing it, or is it all literally prediction from previous cycles?
Yeah. So, people ask that question a lot. Really, in my opinion, TA kind of will tell you, if you're good at TA, right, or good at Elliott Wave, it'll tell you if a catalyst is coming up or, something bad's coming up, right? So, in my opinion, it kind of front runs the news, right? So I don't know what the news will be, but I might, if we're here, right, and I see, hey, this is really overbought, I might think, well, I don't know what's going to come out in the news. It could be just the Bitcoin price. It could be whatever. The poison pill gets denied. I mean, I really don't follow the news at all. But, the charts will kind of, there's an old saying, it's show me the charts and I'll tell you the news.
Yeah.
So that's what I go off of. Now, I obviously rely on other people like you guys, and I usually shout out Sebastian and DR as well. But I personally don't follow any news at all. So I do believe the answers are in the charts, but I don't know what the news events will be, if you will.
So interesting. It's such a chicken and the egg thing to me. Charts driving news, news driving charts. Regardless, we're up over 110 concurrent viewers, you guys. Last video you did with us, Freedom, we got 260 likes. So for every 100 likes, you guys, we're going to be giving away a swag kit. We brought home a ton of gear from Nashville. I'm going to be putting together little boxes for subscribers. So leave a comment, like the video, and we're going to be picking random subscriber comments, one gift box for every 100 likes. Now, with that being said, we're getting a bunch of questions about IREN next here, Freedom. So if we could maybe jump over to IREN, take a quick look at the chart. This one, obviously, Anthony, one you've covered for quite some time. They've had a tremendous run. Looks like we're seeing huge green shoots on the screen here. Where do you think IREN's going in the near future?
Yeah, so IREN is one, that I did call pretty well. I said we would come somewhere in here, right, into this 11 to 913 area. I know I personally got back into IREN yesterday. I missed the low by, a little bit. I think I entered here at like 930, and then I bought a little bit more the lower we got. But for now, I actually have it doing something like this, right? So I do think we bottomed, especially if we can get one more little sub wave. So I'll get real nerdy here for a little bit. This is what I'm actually watching. I'm actually in a trade right now. So I'm looking for 5 waves up. Now, I don't recommend obviously looking at these types of time frames, but it's critical we get 5 waves up off the low, because that shows that a new bullish trend is starting. So I am thinking what's going to happen is we're probably going to get one more push up here. This looks a little bit like, a bull flag. It's just consolidating here. Probably going to get one more little push up. And then we'll have our 5 waves up, which is super important, because this all means that this is a wave 1. You're going to get a wave 2, probably to fill this gap, which I know people are not going to like. And then we're going to really bust out of here.
Gotcha.
I would guess, up to 1050 to 11, and then probably going to get a wave 2 to fill this gap. And then we're really going to go and kind of bust out of here. But on the higher time frames, you're looking at, let's see here. Let's go to like a 3-day. So on the higher time frames, you're looking at something like this, right? So it would be a 1, 2.
This has it closer up in the 25 plus range, eh?
Yeah, so somewhere up here, right? So this is going to move in waves, so people always get kind of pissed, but it's going to go like this, right? It's not going to go just straight up to this area, but this is the next target box I have for IREN, 25 to 33 bucks. 20 is definitely, in my opinion, going to get hit, but I would be shocked if 25 didn't. But that's just
is this because people are sort of like they'll sell at certain amounts, or they think I've made enough profit, so you always have that little pullback, and then the price then kicks on again, and they've already sold it. So you're always going to get buyers and sellers at various points, aren't you?
Exactly. Yeah. So at some point, people are going to take profits, right? We may get up to here, and people might think, oh shit, like we're getting close to the all-time highs, like better take some profits. So it's really just the sentiment of the waves, right? So people will buy up to here, and then they'll take profits, and then people will get really scared again down here on wave 2s, and then wave 3, IREN will be the best miner ever again. And then,
well, that's what I think so interesting about this is it really plays on group psychology and how people act as a herd, right? And you may have outliers here and there, but generally people are pretty predictable with fear and greed. So really interesting. Now, you said you think 2025 in kind of the September range there, I guess. Where do you see this peaking out long-term, Freedom? Or do you not even project past kind of?
So it's tough to say right now. So I got too many.
And that's fine. If you don't have a good answer, I'd rather not say.
Yeah, it's just tough because we don't know. We don't know a few things, right? So once we get these 5 waves up, I mean, it's likely we're going to get a pretty significant correction here, which people aren't going to like. There's a lot of calls for, whatever, but you see how this box can go all the way up to here, right? That's why I have the 1.618 there. So if shit gets crazy with Bitcoin, I mean, we can go much higher, right? And again, the timing, don't pay as much attention to the timing, but I mean, this thing can go, up here, right?
Well, and realistically, that kind of starts to align with the Bitcoin cycle itself, right? So I'm pretty sure if IREN makes it to $75, $80, a correction would be not too unheard of.
Oh yeah, it'll be pretty substantial for all miners, just like in the past. Same thing with Bitcoin, right? So a lot of people are like, well, how high can it go? And the answer is, it depends on Bitcoin. If we get a 95K Bitcoin and that's the peak, the miners aren't going to do, a 10x from here. Now, if we get a 250K Bitcoin, then obviously, the miners are probably going to do a 10x. So a good rule of thumb is, double what Bitcoin returns. So if you get Bitcoin, doing a double from here, miners can probably 4x from here.
Gotcha.
If that's just a general rule of what's happened in the past. Now that doesn't necessarily mean it'll happen this time, but that's just a general thing to think about, right? Is a 2x multiplier. Some will obviously do better and some will do worse. But yeah.
Awesome. Hey, now we're getting a ton of questions about Riot in the chat. So we want to get to Riot. Before that, though, let's take a look at one of the smaller plays, Soluna. I know you have a chart for Soluna as well there, Freedom. Riot, interestingly enough, a lot of the swag I have is from Riot. You guys, some really cool little Bitcoin, some hats, all kinds of gear. So make sure we get those likes. Every 100 likes, we're sending out a swag kit. Without further ado, here's Soluna, and then we'll talk Riot after that.
Yeah, so Soluna, pretty much, we're getting down to a wave 4, what I think, and then we're going to get a wave 5 on after this, right? So I can show you how I project a wave 5, but it would be basically coming from the bottom of 3 to the top of 3 to the bottom of 4. I do think this is probably bottomed. And then I would come in here for a wave 5 and these are the typical targets for a 5.
Here, I'll zoom in so everyone can see this here. Yeah. Now, what happens after wave 5? Then you just get a big correction and it restarts the whole thing?
Yeah, it restarts, right? So really all this is part of a bigger one, right? And then you'll get a 2, and then it all starts over again.
So you could always zoom out, and these 5 waves are a smaller series of waves in a bigger time frame.
Correct.
It always rolls up. Yeah.
Yep. So you're going to get a big correction after you get up here to probably 14.
Don't say that, Freedom. No one wants to hear that.
Yeah, I know it's going to be. I think I'll save a lot of people a lot of money, at least the people that believe. But there's always big corrections. Same with Bitcoin. That's actually the reason why I started on X, is because I would hear all these things from some of my real life buddies, and they'd be like, "Yeah, dude," and I was like, "Well, Yeah, that's not going to happen. So eventually my buddies were like, dude, like you're always right. Like these people, not always, but you're right more than these big accounts. Like you should just start an X. So that's kind of how I started.
I bet your wife doesn't say you're always right, does she?
No, she thinks differently.
Anthony, how about you? Are you always right over there?
Not a chance.
No, me neither, unfortunately. So, Anthony, Soluna's one that you cover quite intimately. Do you feel like this chart is supported? Do you feel like Freedom's bull case makes sense, knowing the fundamentals of Soluna? You there, Anthony?
Oh, sorry. Do I?
Do you feel like the fundamentals support this chart, knowing Soluna's background? You cover this company quite closely.
Yeah, I've got some Soluna shares in my pension plan, so a small amount in there. It's difficult. I mean, it's difficult in it with the fundamentals and the technical analysis, because I'm looking at real time news worthy items that would take the stock higher. One thing I'll say about Soluna is that for smaller miners. And bear in mind, I'll reiterate this: their hash rate. We talk about small miner. Their hash rate is just under 0.8 exahash. We go back 2.5 years ago when IREN, formerly known as Irish Energy, were 0.5 exahash when they started, and everyone talks about IREN nowadays. But that's not Soluna's story. Soluna do far more than their self mining. They've got a hosting business as well, which is twice as big as their self mining. They're also moving they're already into the HPC space. They've already set up a few megawatts and are actually now earning revenues through HPC. Unlike miners who have said they're going into the space, they're delivering it now. So, and they've got a number of these small projects. Because they're a small miner, the issue with every miner, every miner that's worth maybe under $1 billion, is the challenge of raising capital. So Soluna have looked at this, and they've put together projects where they come in and look for a partner to partner with them, who brings in the capital. Soluna bring in the know-how, join together, deliver a project, share the revenues, and it's sort of like they have a number of projects, and they have a pipeline of up to 2 gigawatts of energy, subject to them delivering these, projects in the future. So they've got that power. One of the cheapest power rates on the market. I mean, we talk about CIFR, we talk about TeraWulf. Soluna, you have to talk about in the same sentence as those two, because they're delivering power under 3 cents a kilowatt hour, and that's as cheap as you can get at the moment. CIFR, I've got a PPA agreement for 2.7. We know TeraWulf's average power costs about 3.5 cents. So Soluna, is probably around the same rate, or close to the same rate as CIFR. And a small miner, certainly worth having a look at. And we'll have John on the show in August. We've got some questions sent to Soluna, and we'll hopefully get some of those answered around about preference shares and the impact of those. But certainly a company worth doing a little bit more due diligence, if you're considering buying this. But it's, as I see, I bought this at sort of like some of the low points on that chart there. And even though it's dropped off, it got to sort of like close to $9, and now it's dropped back off. I mean, potentially this is, like you say, it's another wave going up. And so I'm eager to look at this chart as well as some of the other charts, because I have a personal interest as well. I've got some Soluna shares.
Sure. Yeah, and speaking of CIFR, you call CIFR out for low-cost power. We actually were at an event with Tyler. He's going to be coming on, first time ever on the channel, to discuss Q2 earnings. So I think August 20th, we scheduled him in. They're coming out on August 19th. We've scheduled about 7 or 8 of the public miners in for August. We're going to publish that on the Power Mining Analysis website. Make sure you guys get your questions in. We should have just about every single CEO on here this month to talk about Q2, and we're expecting a lot of red across the board. So good time to get questions in. Now, Freedom, we want to talk about CleanSpark Marathon, 2 of the heavy hitters. But before we do, we promised the people Riot. So if you can bring up Riot here, I'll find a comment. We've got about 15 of them.
Yeah.
Oh, please, Riot next. There you go. We've answered your prayers here, buddy. We're going to Riot. We've got another Riot +1. Let's see what we can come up with for Riot Platforms, Freedom.
Yeah. So Riot again, we got a nice wave one off the lows. So 770. And then you get a wave two into right here, 889. So really this chart is bullish above 889. And now when you look in here, this gap is, it's very possible that it gets filled. But I mean, there's not a lot more left here. You know what I mean? As far as the correction goes, in my opinion. So
do you wait to buy now? For say I'm watching this and I like Riot. I watched the Corsicana tour. I'm feeling good about their growth. Anthony's giving me some good stats, and I want to get a position going. What do I do? Do I wait to the bottom of this green box? Do I get in anytime I can? Dollar cost average?
yeah. So I mean, the vast majority of people shouldn't be worried about these perfect entries. I get a lot of questions on X as well. The reality is whether you have a $9 average or a 10.23 average or a $11 average, it's not going to really matter based on where I think these are going. So this one, these projections are based off of the waves, right? So if we take a move to the top of one to the bottom of two, you got, let me get rid of some of these. So typical third wave extension is going to go to the 1.38 to the 1.618.
What platform is this, or software?
Yeah, this is just trading view.
Gotcha. Okay.
So the next wave three is probably going to go, and I would say it's more likely. So Hut's wave three went to the 2.0 extension. So did TeraWulf, so did IREN. So I'll add the 2.0 on here, somewhere in here for a wave three.
So hence why you're doing the 20 strike calls, eh?
Yeah. So I got a lot of 20 strikes for January. I gave them a little bit more time because Riot seems to be, a little slower. No offense to them.
Now let's talk about timing, because I actually did some option trading courses in the States, and they generally taught trade at 0.8 deltas and always buy additional time. So if you're looking, basically options have time decay. Theta is the Greek that measures time decay. So if you're looking at this chart and you're telling us by September you expect $20, would you recommend people tack a bit of extra time on there to avoid theta?
Yeah. I would definitely. First of all, I don't really trade options below. I try not to go below 6 months. Now, of course, some people will say that's BS because I do post quite a few trades, but I don't recommend anyone, mess around with short-term options. I would always give yourself, twice as long as people say or what I say, just because you're still going to get good returns and you really want that time. So I've been burned many times by, short-term options. So it's always better, exactly like you said, Bryce, to buy some more time so that, you have plenty of time, right? So it's just, you won't get quite as good of returns, but I always recommend, whatever you're thinking, I would literally just double the time, or at least 1.5x what you think.
Sure. Yeah, what's difficult with options, you guys, why the returns are higher, one of the reasons is you have to guess direction and time. With shares, you only have to guess up or down. You can hold them as long as you want. Options have expiration dates, so you need to get that time angle in there. Now, Anthony, question for you on Riot Platforms. Coming out with earnings tonight, you're going to be going through the numbers basically tomorrow morning. We have Riot on, Jason Less on tomorrow to talk Q2. What are you expecting here?
We already articulated earlier in the conversation that the numbers are not going to be as impressive as they were in quarter one, because revenues will be significantly down with the halving. They also have a significant hodl as well, right? So they'll fall foul of the FASB rules, so there'll be an unrealized loss. And when you think about the number of Bitcoin they had during that second quarter, you could be looking at close to 8,000 coins at an unrealized loss of $9,000 per coin. So that, straight away you're into 72 million of unrealized losses just on the Bitcoin. I'll be keen to look at what their free cash flow is. So this is effectively, as a business, Bitcoin coming in, the value of the Bitcoin each month, and looking at what their cash costs against that. So it's stripping out depreciation, stripping out stock compensation and unrealized losses and gains, and seeing if they're actually still operating viably during that period. And we expect most of the miners to be from a free cash flow. So this is just looking at cash flow. So it's money coming in, money going out, to be viable in that quarter. And there was an element of that quarter where the part of it was pre-halving, and most of that quarter post-halving. But we've also had them transaction fees spike. So it might be a different scenario to where we are in quarter 3 or the third quarter when they come out in a few months' time. But this will be the first one that comes out today. So this will set the scene, really. Riot have had some challenges in terms of production at their Rockdale facility, in terms of the miners not really performing to their optimum levels. And Jason highlighted that on one of our earlier podcasts this year. To the tune of about 4 exahash wasn't performing as it should be, but he came up with a plan to replace those machines. They've got a massive order with MicroBT, probably MicroBT's biggest client. I mean, we're talking machines in the hundreds of thousands, their order with them, to grow their hash rate and to replace mining machines. Now, we're also waiting. The results come out today, but we want to see their monthly update for July to show that they've improved their hash rate operationally. They have 22 exahash installed, but they're only operating at just over 14 exahash at the end of June. Jason wouldn't give a figure at the conference, but he basically said that over these next few months, you will see that operational amount significantly rise as more and more machines actually get switched on and come online. So, there's an expectation for us to follow that, but that won't impact on the results. That's just sort of like additional news. And they might put something in the news, in their results, to suggest what's going on at the moment, because a lot of these miners are going to have red in terms of their physical results. So they'll try and balance that off with saying, look forward to Q3, Q4, Bitcoin price, if it gets this level here. We're doing everything we can to make our fleet more efficiently, so they're bringing in more machines. So there'll be a lot of other newsworthy things in their update to try and offset the actual numbers. That's how a lot of the miners will work through this next month with their Q2 or second quarter updates.
Yeah. Now, quick comment on Riot, and then 2 back-to-back Riot questions for you, Freedom. I said we went to a Riot investor meeting at the conference, and people were asking about the Corsicana growth. Jason, again, stating, you guys, they have built this company. They've overbuilt the company for where they're going, not where they are currently. So you look at those images of Corsicana, you may say, oh, there's 2 or 3 buildings complete, therefore they're 20-30% done. But you have to remember, a lot of the infrastructure, the substation, the drainage, the ventilation, the infrastructure order times, that's all done on the front end, not to mention removing all the earth and the earthworks. So realistically, for CleanSpark, for Riot, for IREN, when you have these single sites, it's not necessarily on a per building basis. It's much more front loaded in terms of work. And Jason made that very clear. So it'll be interesting to see as these monthly reports and earnings come out.
Just now, that, Bryce, before we get there. And the other fun fact was, obviously, Riot have just purchased Block. And so they've actually increased their year-end targets now. So the year-end target has gone from 31 exahash up to, I think, 37 exahash. So, this is without their work that they're doing at the moment to try and, acquire Bitfarms. Obviously that's going on in the background, which is, hence why I asked the earlier question to Freedom about, these types of news stories, do they impact the charts? But, Riot seems to be going all out there. They're focusing totally on the self-mining space. They want to be the best miner. At the moment, they're not the best miner in terms of operationally, because their operational updates haven't been as good as their peers. But having been down to that site at Corsicana, and if they can get those machines into Rockdale to replace the ones that aren't operating optimally, this could really be the changing point for Riot this year. I mean, you know, I want to see July and August update coming out saying we're well over 20 exahash in terms of operational exahash, and we're starting to mine the number of Bitcoin that people expect. And if they're switching off in the hot weather for these energy credits, then that, you know, you can do the equivalency calculation and put that energy credit into Bitcoin terms and show what the position is. But we want them to be showing at the top end of the table and not at the bottom end of the table, because, you know, 2024 now is, we've had a couple of, I'm going to say 18 months of sort of like disappointment in terms of monthly updates. But 2024, remaining this year, having been to the site there, looked at the way that it's progressing, I think this is could be a really positive year for them.
Now, Anthony, I'm going to come back to you for a quick comment on the Riot Bitfarms hostile takeover poison pill update. So just get that ready. Freedom, 2 quick questions for you. Riot, are they going to fill this smaller gap at 917? What do you think in the immediate term here?
Yeah, so I can go down. So it's tough, right? So if you look at the daily, it looks like this could come down. The stochastic could come down a little bit further. See how we're almost bottomed?
Yep.
So we might be like right here, right? So if you see this, you might get another wick down and fill that gap. So same thing, you're right here on the stochastic, or you're right here. You're basically almost there, right? But I could see us coming down here and filling this gap.
And what is that, at 890 you're at?
Yeah, so the gap is between, let's see.
I'll zoom in on this one.
993 and 1023.
Gotcha.
I mean, in general, gaps like this are pretty much like, I mean, it's good if it's the upside, but they're usually like magnets, right? So I would say there's probably a decent chance that we do come down here.
So when you see a gap up on the left there, you're pretty certain you'll get back to the top of that gap on the down.
Yeah, typically. Now it depends, right? If you're in a third wave, you'll see a lot of gaps that are left.
Just blown past, yeah.
Just blown past. But, you know, at this stage, it's
Gotcha.
possible.
No, that makes sense.
If there's any point that we wouldn't fill it, it would be now, right? Again, a lot of it depends on Bitcoin, right? So if this
66.3.
Yeah, if this breaks through this, I mean, there's no more bearish shit for any of the miners, right?
Yeah.
But if we do this, if we come up here into this red zone, and then we get this last final dip, that's when you're going to see a lot of miners get their last little flushes down. Now, for instance, like IREN,
that's when you're selling the 4plex, eh, buddy?
Yeah, so 4plex is actually being sold. We got a bunch of offers on it.
All right, on.
Literally,
hey, I don't mean to rush you, but we got half hour. We've got a ton of more miners. Quick second question for you, Freedom. End of year price target for CleanSpark Riot. We'll go on to CleanSpark next. What's end of year for Riot?
Yeah, CleanSpark end of year is anywhere between.
Let's. Do you have Riot? Well, let's start with them, because I have one more question on Riot for Anthony, and then we'll jump over to CleanSpark.
Riot end of year 35 to 52.
Gotcha. Okay, and then we'll go to CleanSpark in a second. Anthony, specific question for you though. Where the hell is it here? Riot's hostile takeover bid of Bitfarms. We spoke with both sides here at the event. Obviously, everything they're disclosing is publicly available. However, it was nice to kind of get the two different takes on this situation. Can you give us your quick thoughts? Now the poison pill's been up to 20%. What do you think's going on here?
So Riot Platforms haven't lost any interest in Bitfarms at all, and you know, we've said quite clearly, Riot believe Bitfarms is a great company to have in their portfolio. And if you go back over a year ago or 18 months ago, Fred Thiel was suggesting that in a few years' time there'd only be sort of like 5 big operators. So we will see more consolidation in the space. Having spoke to Jason and also spoke to the Bitfarms crowd, they're obviously, very much about where they see it going. So Bitfarms will say, we want to carry on, do our own thing. We're growing quickly. We're going to get to 21 exahash. Riot, obviously, they want to be the biggest miner and the best miner in the world, and acquiring Bitfarms helps them get to that point of view. We did also manage to see a lot of the Wall Street analysts there, so try and get their view. And their view is, it's not a case of if, it's a case of when it happens. So they firmly believe, this is the Wall Street guys, they firmly believe that, Riot will end up acquiring Bitfarms. Now it's down to the bottom line, it's down to the shareholders. Interestingly enough, at the investor day, and I went to a separate investor day from Bryce, where it was really the Wall Street analysts in the room. Bryce went to one where it was more of the retail investors in the room with Riot. They did two separate meetings, and Jason said that Riot wouldn't be able to use their stock, even though they have at the moment 15% or more than 15% today, because they've just announced they've made more purchases, so they're well over 15%. They're heading towards 20%, but those shares wouldn't be allowed to be used in any vote when it came to it. So from Riot's perspective, they'll be hoping that the shareholders, and I say that inverted commas, whoever owns the shares at the date that vote takes place, will be able to vote for or against for that, and they feel relatively comfortable that they'll have enough people with voting power to vote this through. It's quite clear that the board at Bitfarms don't have a significant amount of shares in the company. We're talking, maybe 2.5%. So it is down to, I'm not going to say retail shareholders, I'm going to say shareholders who have the common stock. And
Gotcha.
Those could be institutions, those could be these big investment banks on Wall Street. And I'll leave it at that point there.
Yeah, appreciate the insight there, Anthony. And I remember the discussion about the Bitfarms board as well. Now, just a quick correction here for VXS. I've talked to both sides, Jason specifically. Riot really doesn't have any issue with Bitfarms management, operations, company, any of that. They have an issue with the board and their perceived entrenchment of that board. So management-wise, it sounds like they're big fans of Bitfarms. And as we see in our reports each and every month, Bitfarms is an extremely smooth operator. Ben and team know exactly what they're doing in this space. Now, with that being said, CleanSpark, let's go over to them, Freedom, see what you can come up with for CleanSpark. One of the key sponsors. They actually sponsored the mining stage at the Nashville event. So that was great hospitality from them. And we got to meet Taylor and the rest of the team. So shout out to CleanSpark as well.
Yes, sir. All right, let's do CleanSpark. Basically, this one's, it's one of the cleaner charts of all the miners, I would say. Really just the most obvious consolidation bull flag here ever. It's just going sideways, and eventually this thing is going to pop out. And my targets for this are, on the very conservative end, $37, which may sound crazy to some people. And then on the higher end, probably 65. Again, I have higher targets, but this is, if you get to 100, you're talking, 200K Bitcoin, at least probably 175. But I would say realistically, the next move is into the $37 region for CleanSpark, and it's just a great chart, to be honest with you. You can see
now, Freedom, you say there's just a super obvious bull flag forming. It's a great chart. Do certain charts give you more conviction than others, or are you pretty confident in this Elliott wave regardless of which company?
Oh yeah, I'm confident in Elliott wave regardless of if it's good or bad. But yeah, the better the chart, it helps to have a clear chart. Like this one's very, very clear and just clean levels, which makes me more confident in it than some others. But yeah, this one's just very, very clean. The levels are very clean. Everything comes down exactly to the right retracement zones. I don't think there's any chance that, that it doesn't literally go to $36, which sounds bad, but I don't see there's any way around it. The only thing that could happen is if Bitcoin really, shits the bed, for lack of a better term. Could get some.
Fair enough.
Yeah, we could get something like this where you get a fake out below the pennant and then we go up.
And speaking of certain charts or not, we had a few questions about Griffin. We weren't able to include them. Can you just comment as to why that is?
Yeah. Griffin. So I don't know where.
And then we will give all our comments on CleanSpark. Anthony, be ready over there for CleanSpark thoughts.
Oh, shit. Yeah. So Griffin. I mean, really, there's no bottom here, right? So it's impossible for me to. It's just. I mean, this chart. Sorry to anyone that's, loves Griffin, and it could turn around obviously at any point. But I mean, this is obviously, it's unchartable. It's just straight down for the last 6 years. So until we really get a bottom and we see some type of impulse off the lows, this is for me, you're just hoping at this point, right? So unfortunately, there's not much analysis I can do on this one.
Yeah, it makes sense.
In fairness to Griffin have only been listed since part of this year, actually. So it's not enough months. I mean, 6 years. They weren't listed 6 years. They only listed, I think, February or March, whatever it was this year. So they've only been part of the group for the last sort of probably 4 or 5 months. And I agree. You've got, even looking at the data, you've only got a small amount of data, and it probably, you need a lot more data, a lot more period to start doing any meaningful predictions.
Right. Yeah, this one, I mean, at least the good news is this, if I can get this to show up. So like, at least you're down here at the bottom of this. So like there's a potential that, you're going to get a turn here at some point.
And they did they did a reverse takeover of a Nasdaq listed company.
So that's probably the old company. Yeah, that's exactly
they took a cannabis company which was really pretty much defunct, and that would have that speed up the process of getting listed by doing that, because it can take you a couple of years to get listed, and it can also cost you a fortune to do it. So they looked at this. They've got there might only be 3 employees in the company, but they're actually all been on the boards or in the senior management teams of the likes of Riot and Marathon.
Yeah, high ranking.
So they're, these guys know what they're doing.
Interestingly enough, Anthony, the Resolve AI company I covered today, that's exactly what they did. Is they did a reverse takeover to list on the Nasdaq. So
absolutely,
great comment there. Anywho, we can get back to CleanSpark, you guys. I just wanted to call out Griffin there. Just to make sure we address those comments. Now, Anthony, we were asked, can everyone give their comment on CleanSpark? This is actually one of my favorite companies in the sector. They're still a top 3 hold, probably maybe still top 1 or 2 for me in my portfolio. I personally really like the peer plays right now. I think Riot, CleanSpark, IREN, they have a little bit of HPC, but some of these big exahash producers, I feel like Bitcoin is getting very, very close to breakout here. And I think the peer plays are going to be in a great position. HPC AI exposed companies like Corp have obviously had their time in the sun here this summer. And I still love those companies. I still hold them. I'm not selling. But I do think the pendulum's going to shift, and Bitcoin may be the discussion in the back half of the year as we close in towards Christmas here. So that's my 2 cents on CleanSpark. Anthony?
So yeah, the conversation at the moment, the conversation at the conference, the current conversation is around, more towards HPC, but the price gets to, just north of the predictions that Freedom's gone through earlier on, gets to like 130, 150,000. The conversation turns full circle and goes into Bitcoin mining. So, the miners will be struggling to make any type of profit at the moment with the Bitcoin price. That's why the HPC looks really, really good, because it's more predictable. We're looking at charts here, and it's great that there's the ability to see most of these companies showing this upward trajectory through the phases. But it's such a challenge to predict prices on Bitcoin or mining stocks today, next month, next year. And that's not from me. That's from Wall Street. They find it really hard to predict it. But with a contract for HPC, very predictable. Revenues coming in every month. We've seen this through. The one big miner who has a contract at the moment delivering monthly is Bit Digital, and they're the only miner who effectively put their other revenues on their monthly Bitcoin mining update because it's so predictable. There'll be a sentence in there. We got another 4.1 million of revenues this month. They put the stall out there. I'd be putting a flag on that as well if I was getting 4 million in HPC revenues every month.
We just got a comment on them, Anthony. So let's jump over to that slide while you're talking about Bit Digital and keep going.
I agree with the CleanSpark. I think they're probably one of the top 2 or 3 operators in terms of growth and production. They've got good energy rates there. So from margin perspective, I think they're in my top 5 holdings at the moment. So I'm along with all the comments that we've heard there. But Bit Digital, great to catch up with Sam and the team at, and that's actually where we met Freedom for the first time live. It was at the actual Bit Digital party, and I just sort of couldn't believe how many people we met at that party that weren't related to Bit Digital, but are related to sort of our area on social media. So we had Penny Ether, we had Bitcoin Mining Guy, we had A Trade, we had remind me who else? Who was it?
Bitcoin Bella.
Bitcoin Bella. She's been in space on some of my Discord channels for 3 or 4 years. So
years,
he was around when Blonity was around, who was the original guy who was doing a lot of the analysis in this space, and I've sort of basically took over where he finished and left off. But she's been around a long time. But to have all those people at one party was just sort of surreal, because
it was hilarious.
We talk to each other every day on Twitter and message each other, and then to meet them in person. It was so funny. Bitcoin Mining Guy tapped me on the shoulder and said how I was doing. I said, yeah, fine, and carried on drinking. And then he had to show me his Twitter feed to realize who he was. And obviously, we respect the fact that some people want to keep their anonymity, and so that's fine. I won't be sharing photographs of that event, but I'm pleased that we were included in a photograph. It was a really good occasion.
Oh, it was great. And I wanted to say, quick plug also to Bit Digital. Hopefully you guys can see that water bottle I got. We got swag at all the events. I got to give it to Sam Tabar and Nick Graves from Bit Digital. All of the gear we got there is top. It's nicer than the clothes I have that I go buy myself. So that's a great upgrade. I got a hat, I got a t-shirt, and I got a water bottle that's an official Yeti. It's not the knockoff kind. Yeah. So I've
just reduced my clothing last time. I'm just going to go on swag now in future. So
I only wear Bitcoin swag. We even got socks at the event. So Anthony and I were joking, next year we're going to try and get them to hand out pants or underwear, and then we'll have the full
shoes. Trainers and shoes would be great if you can sort them out with.
Okay, we gotta quit talking here. Freedom, we got 17 more minutes. We got about 6 companies. Bit Digital, this is one of our favorites on the channel. Love Sam, love the team, love the Ethereum staking. What do you see with Bit Digital?
Yeah, so Bit Digital is definitely one of mine too. I don't have a lot of Ethereum, so I'm trying to get in this one. I'm not in yet, but I think it'd be great for Ethereum exposure for the rest of the cycle, basically. From a chart perspective, I do think it's likely that we're going to cool off here. I'm hoping. I'm a little bit biased because I'm not in a position, but if you can see these RSI, these are all short-term tops, and we just got a bearish cross here. So my thought is it's likely we're going to cool off here somewhere in this range, 312. I would love it if it came down to 250, but we'll see. I think we're probably going to get a cool off. Right now, I've actually had this chart on X. You guys can see all my charts on X, but we just got a bounce into my B wave area. So the B wave could already be in or close to in. And then we're likely going to go As you can see, the timing isn't always perfect, right? But we're likely going to go, hopefully, down in here somewhere.
Okay, and then longer term on Bit Digital, where do you see this guy going?
Yeah, so this one can go pretty high, I think, which is another
This is good stuff.
Another reason why I'm interested. I think 16. The crazy projections up here, you can see $62 is literally possible.
Imagine the swag Sam will be buying if Bit Digital gets to 62 a share, hey?
Yeah, exactly. Who
You
knows?
might be getting some nice pants or shoes.
We'll be handing out some serious stuff at that point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I would say 15 minimum for me, but then 22 and then as high as, $60, which would be absolutely nuts. If it gets to $60, though, it's going to be way out here,
Sure.
in late 2025. But, yeah,
And
this
again, not financial advice, everyone. This is not financial advice. This is purely a technical analysis special. Where this gets interesting for me, though, you guys, is listening to Anthony and all the fundamental, listening to Freedom and all
with the sports top. No, the green color with the sports top and the sports wheels. Yep, the drive. Yeah, Lambert.
Anthony's not on mute here, picking up his order.
That's awesome.
There you go, Anthony, ordering in the swag for Bit Digital. Now, where it gets exciting for me is where the two worlds collide, right? Technical analysis and fundamental analysis. When you're both flashing indicators, there's really some good stuff there. So very exciting for Bit Digital. We talked briefly. Let me see who we've got left on the list here, you guys. Maybe Core Scientific. We've had a few questions about them. This is another great facility we were lucky enough to go down and take a visit to. They've already had a tremendous run this year, Freedom. So I don't know if you were predicting this one. When did you start following Core?
Yeah, I did. I had CORZ. If you go back and look at my post, I did predict that we were going to bottom in 2 and go to, I think my target was at like $6, but that's another example of how TA can help you, but it can't predict how high or how low, right? So it can predict the general trend, but for me, I had a target, of 5 to, let's see where the 2.0 extension was. So this was my target down here off this low, 1, 2, 3, 4. I thought we were going to be down here, but of course the contract, made the wave 3 go all the way up to, I think, the 4.0 extension. So it just shows that, you can get the trend right, but you're not going to get the extension. The same thing with the retracement levels. Like, you don't know, right? You just know that, hey, this is probably a short-term top. Now it could go to 875, which it did, or it could go to 709, or it could still be bullish all the way at $6. So in this case, we did hit 875, but I think for now, this thing's going higher. So my next target
just to add to that, Freedom, B. Riley, one of the big Wall Street analyst firms, they've increased their target from 50 cents a share to $13.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you go from 50 cents to $13? Yeah. So but I think that news that came out on the 3rd of June with regards to that CoreWeave contract, that basically changed the whole landscape for the year in terms of the mining space and the ability for these miners with power have now got an option how to utilize that power, whether to utilize it with mining or whether to utilize it with HPC. Power is the key resource, and Core Scientific have taken advantage of that. And it wouldn't surprise me if we get another announcement in the next month or two with regards to the remaining 230 megawatts of available power that they want to put into HPC. So they'll have 500 megawatts delivering HPC. That's going to give them the region of about $1.5 million a day profit, net profit after all costs. So, that's why it looks appealing now. Now, if the Bitcoin price gets 200,000, I'm sure the Bitcoin miners, the pure play out there, will equally be getting serious amounts of Bitcoin profit on a daily basis. But that just shows you how predictable Wall Street are looking at this. So it's very interesting to see that chart there. And I know from social media, a lot of people have been buying Core this last few days as the price has dropped, because they feel that's another good entry, because it really did rally up above $11 very, very quickly, and all their warrants have been effectively reached their conversion prices, and now it's just a case of shareholders, when they decide to actually exchange their warrant for the stock, that consideration for the stock goes to the company and reduces their debt down to zero. So they've already reduced the debt by a significant amount with all the notes. It's just now the CORZ W warrant, it needs to be actioned by shareholders. They've got a bit of time to do that, but obviously from a company perspective, they want people to do it as soon as possible, because it gives them the stage to go to their next point, which will be to have 400 million of available cash to start looking at the future of how they want their strategy going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot going on with Core. Now, I asked what miners should we do next. We got a request, a triple header here, Hive, CIFR, Hut. So we only have 10 more minutes. I'm not, Freedom, do you have a little bit of wiggle room, or are you a hard?
Yeah, I got to get back to my
get back to work.
Eh? Yeah, day job at.
All right, let's do it quick then. Hive.
So Hive, I think this is either close to bottomed, or we're going to get one more little low here into 336. But then I had a resistance block here just because this was quite the resistance before. So if you look at the weekly again, see how this is very, very high, and it corresponds to all the last tops, top. So I think we're going to at least go into 336, maybe a little bit lower. Like you can see this run off the lows. It's quite drastic, right? It's so people always get mad, but it's like, you're looking at, a 100% run. So, you should expect with these stocks, a 30% dip at any point.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of what I'm expecting for Hive, maybe a little bit lower to let.
And then where's it going from there?
Then we're going up to next target would really be this $8 to $10 range, somewhere in here, but then eventually probably closer to 15.
Gotcha.
By the end of the year.
Okay, fair enough. What do you have on CIFR? CIFR, interestingly enough, yeah, we met Tyler at the event with you, Freedom. We're going to have him on for Q2 results on August 20th. Looking forward to that one. What do you have for CIFR chart?
Yeah, so CIFR, I still think
fairly steep, eh?
Yeah, I think this one's still going to basically up here into this $10 to $12 range. This was actually a support box. It's on the higher time frame now, so we are holding as far as a pullback goes. And then I think basically we're heading to this next area, which right now is at $9 to $11. So see how we're way down here, we're way oversold. I think it's likely we get a pop here and start heading up. I can check the daily as well, but you see the daily is way down here. Anytime we're down here, it's likely that, see how these are all local bottoms. Local bottom, maybe a little bit lower, but then, we're going to get another pop. And I think the next pop is going to be up here to 9 to 11-ish is my guess.
Yeah, looking very promising. Now, Hut 8, they hosted another event in Nashville. We went out with Asher,
Yep.
Sue, and the team. It was great to finally meet Sue in real life. She's actually the first interview I ever had in the Bitcoin mining space. Really someone who inspired me to kind of get more into the sector and make this more of a full-time thing. They've had a great run since Asher took over from, I think, about the $6 all the way up to the $20 range that you show there. I think that's your number 3 peak on your chart.
Yep.
Where are you thinking Hut's going? Looks like they're getting close to the bottom of this current box range, eh?
Yeah, so had a big correction, which we predicted. You guys can go back and watch these videos, just so you don't. No, I'm not full of shit, right? Go back and watch, but these we knew we were getting close to a top up here. And now I think this is probably bottomed. And we are going to head up to the next green box, which is actually pretty big, but I would say realistically, it's probably in here for now, just to be realistic, 27 to 33. But again, this isn't going to move perfectly, right? You're going to get something like this for your next move up. So I think it's likely we've bottomed. We can get down to the weirder time frames like people love to do.
Is that the RSI there? Or is that?
So the RSI right here is pretty much bottomed. We got a nice.
Yeah. So it's which is a good sign as well.
Yeah. So you can see here. If I can move this up, you get a little pop right here. The blue crossing over the orange. It's a good sign. It's likely it's bottomed. I don't see it going any lower. If it does go lower, it's going to pretty much come back to fill this gap right here.
Interesting.
It'll probably do something like this, maybe go a little higher today with the FOMC stuff, come back down. Kind of very similar to IREN and very similar.
Now let's take a quick look at TeraWulf as well.
Yeah, Wulf's actually another one. It's actually exact same boat as IREN and HUT. They all moving almost identically together as far as they're correcting right now into this region, and then they got a nice pop. See all the indicators, same as HUT, same as IREN. If you look at IREN, same thing. They're getting a move off the lows today, which is a great sign. And then you're going to get something like this, fill that gap, most likely, which I know people don't like to hear, but I'm guessing, this is 68, 69 BTC. After the FOMC, this is 60, 62, 63 BTC, and then we'll be out of here and we'll be heading back up the chain as far as long term.
Yeah, looking really good. Now, two other ones, Bitdeer, DMG, Marathon, and SATO. I don't know if we have time for all of them, but those are the ones we haven't hit yet. Marathon has been requested quite a bit.
Yeah, Marathon, we'll start with them since they're highly requested. So really, I mean, I think this one's pretty close to bottoming too, if not already bottomed. Doesn't have the cross up yet, so it's possible this goes just a little bit lower, but as long as it remains above 18 bucks, which I know people don't want it to go all the way back down there, but it's completely fine. And the next area that I'm watching is all the way up here at $37, 37 to 40 bucks. So I wouldn't worry too much about Marathon. Just very similar to all the other miners, right? They're just accumulating in this huge range and waiting for Bitcoin to go higher.
Yeah, makes sense. I know you've done a few posts about this, Freedom, but for skeptics saying, hey, this guy's bullish on every single company we talked about today, what is your rebuttal to that?
Yeah, so I'm not, right? I'm not bullish on all of them. Bearish on BTBT, bearish on Hive, bearish on, not Bitfarms, but, I'm bullish and bearish at certain times. So I was bearish here.
Just depending where we're at in those wave cycles. Hey?
Exactly. Yeah. So it just depends. In general, I'm obviously bullish on all miners. It's just if you're talking about these little sub waves, I can flip on and off. But really, for most people, it doesn't matter. You should just be accumulating miners right now and waiting for 95K Bitcoin. I mean, that's literally all there is to it. That's
my first sell zone too, buddy. You're right in line with me. Now, I know you got to get back to your day job. I want to give you a chance to talk about the Patreon again before we wrap up. We also have Bitdeer, DMG, and SATO if you have time. If not,
I'll do them real quick. Let me.
Sure. I know you put them together, so I just wanted to see
let's
see them go to use here.
Bitdeer. So This one looks pretty similar to Soluna. Basically coming down in a 4. This would be a normal retracement for a wave 4 in here. And you can see how it's holding the 0.382. These are both bottoms. It's likely that it's going to go up from here. I mean, they could always squiggle down a little bit more, but you know, pretty close to a bottom. And then likely the next target is 15 to 20 for Bitdeer.
Gotcha. How about SATO and DMG?
Yeah, let me do SATO. That's down here somewhere. SATO, yeah. So this one actually worked out really well. I remember last time we were on was probably back here.
Yeah.
And I said we're looking for a pop. We got a 5-wave move up, and now we're getting our wave 2 retrace. This is a perfect load zone for the big wave 3, which is coming, in my opinion. So really looking for.
And where's that wave 3 going to take us?
Probably over $1.
Okay.
So nice big move here.
No kidding.
Coming up for SATO, in my opinion. You can look at the indicators again and see that we got this bullish cross.
That's similar to a golden cross?
Oh, yeah, similar. It's just not with usually people call golden cross
averages?
Yeah, with moving averages, exactly.
Sure.
But yeah, in general, this one looks ready. I mean, all the miners are pretty much in the same place, to be honest, guys. They're just either pulling back in wave 4s or wave 2s, and they're ready to go higher. They're just all waiting on Bitcoin to break out of this range. So once that happens, I mean, you're just waiting for Bitcoin to break 72K with a daily candle. It's pretty much it.
72K. That's what we're looking for.
Yep. And
and DMG, sorry, that's the other one here.
Yeah, let me see. DMG. So this one's a little funky. It's possible that this was a B wave, and we're going to come a little bit lower before we go up because, yeah, these indicators are pretty high. So it's possible that we're getting something like this. Like this was an A, this is a corrective B. We're going to get a C into here. We would need to hold this low. So maybe into here somewhere for a low. Between this, the typical wave 2 is between the 50% and the 88% retracement. I would say somewhere in here, we might come back down here one more time to reset these indicators before we actually go up. So still a bullish chart.
Yeah, this one going up over $1 as well, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
It's just this one might need to cool off just a little bit.
Sure.
Kind of like it did here. See how it came down with the indicators. So it might cool off, do pretty much exactly what it did here, right? So
gotcha.
It's right here, come down again and build a little bit better base, and then should be off to 140.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. Well, this was an action-packed hour and a half. I know it's a lot of work putting these charts together. We greatly appreciate it. So thank you on behalf of the whole community. Anthony, always appreciate your insights on the fundamental side as well. And Freedom, I'll pass it back over to you if you want to maybe mention the Patreon here.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. I know it's kind of rushed. If you do want more content, obviously free stuff on X, I post on there probably too much, according to my wife. Post on there quite a bit. But if you want more of this type of stuff regularly, I update all the miners and like 25 alts. And then I also update Tesla, MicroStrategy, Coin. I do video updates once a week, and then I do chart updates once a week as well. So if you are interested in more content, basically the Patreon's there for that. If not, happy to help, obviously, for free on X. So that's not going away. Just the Patreon's there for if people want more frequent updates and they want more kind of how to learn, right? I post how to play options on there, how to actually use Elliott Wave. It's kind of hard to explain everything on charts on X. So yeah.
No, it sounds great. I'm happy with my membership, buddy. I appreciate the insight. And we will have you back in a month or so to get an update on these charts and see if these predictions have come to fruition or not. But in the meantime, you say the number one number to watch for, 72,000 Bitcoin on the daily chart?
Yeah. If we can get a close, at least one, maybe two closes above that, we're probably heading to 85 to 90K. And that will be obviously huge for Bitcoin miners. Should be pretty crazy, I would think. So
I would think the same. Anthony, we'll be back tomorrow with Jason Less and Riot Platforms Q2 earnings interview. You guys, we'll see you here tomorrow morning. Thanks so much.